Welcome to Relaxed Reddit Readings. Today we have 5 Reddit stories for you. Reddit stories that will make you say, no way. Story 1. My parents keep calling me by my brother's name. So my parents have been calling me the wrong name my entire life, and I finally snapped. Okay, let me back up. I'm 17, and I've got a half-brother who's about 30 and lives 600 miles away. Ever since I was a little kid, my parents would slip up and call me his name. Annoying, but whatever, people make mistakes, right? He hasn't even lived with us in years, but I let it slide every single time. Usually they'd catch themselves and go, "Oh sorry," and correct it right away. That was fine. I could live with that. But here's where it gets messy. My brother is going through a really ugly divorce right now, and naturally he's become the center of my parents' attention. Which, okay, I get it, that's a stressful life event, he probably needs support. But ever since this divorce drama started, my parents have basically stopped correcting themselves when they call me his name. It's not a slip anymore, it's like I've become an extension of him in their heads. Like I'm just a placeholder for their real concern, which is my brother's marriage falling apart. Last week, my mom called me his name 3 times in one conversation and didn't correct herself once. I finally said something, and I said it wasn't just an accident anymore, it felt like I didn't even matter enough to get my own name back. My dad got defensive and said I was being selfish, that my brother is dealing with something way bigger than a name mix-up, and that I should be more understanding since I'm not the one going through a divorce. My mom didn't say much, just kind of nodded along with him. So now I'm the bad guy for being upset that my own parents can't be bothered to call me by my actual name during a hard time in my brother's life. I pointed out that I've been patient about this for years, and that this isn't about competing with his problems, it's about being seen as myself and not just a stand-in for him. They think I picked a really insensitive time to bring this up. Maybe they're right, maybe I should have waited. But also, when is a good time to tell your parents you want to be called by your own name? Am I the jerk for bringing this up while my brother's going through his divorce, or are my parents kind of missing the point here? If you're enjoying these stories, hit that like button and let me know in the comments which story you relate to the most. Story 2. I set up a sprinkler trap for the kids attacking my beehives. So I basically booby-trapped my backyard with a sprinkler, and now my neighbor wants to fight me about it. I'm 34, and I keep a few beehives in my backyard, mostly for pollinating my garden and a little bit of honey on the side. I've had these hives for 3 years now, no issues. But for the last few months, my neighbor Dan's kids have made it their personal mission to climb up on the fence and chuck rocks and pine cones at my hives just to watch the bees freak out. I saw them doing it multiple times and I told them straight up to knock it off, because bees do not mess around when their hive gets disturbed. Someone's going to get stung badly, maybe even me, maybe even them. I even talked to Dan about it directly, told him what was happening, and he kind of brushed it off like kids will be kids. So the warnings weren't working, and I wasn't about to just wait around for someone to get hurt or for my hives to get destroyed. That's when I set up a motion-activated sprinkler pointed right at the fence line where they climb up. Nothing crazy, just a sudden blast of cold water the second they get up there to throw something. Sure enough, next time they climbed up to torment the bees, they got soaked head to toe. I heard them screaming and laughing, and honestly I laughed too because it worked exactly like I wanted. Well, Dan did not find it funny at all. He came storming over, soaking wet kids in tow, saying I had no right to quote, booby-trap my property, and that I could have really hurt them if they slipped off the fence. I told him I warned him multiple times, I warned the kids multiple times, and this was literally just water, not anything dangerous. He said it's the principle of it, that I should have just kept complaining to him instead of taking matters into my own hands. I pointed out that I did complain to him, several times, and nothing changed. He's now telling other neighbors that I'm the unreasonable one for setting up a trap instead of just building a taller fence or moving my hives somewhere else, like this is somehow my responsibility to fix instead of his responsibility to control his own kids. My wife thinks it's hilarious and thinks I did the right thing, but now things are tense with Dan every time we see each other outside. So, am I the jerk for using a sprinkler to stop kids from provoking bees that could genuinely hurt them, or should I have just kept quiet and let it keep happening? Story 3. I refuse to read the wedding toast my future brother-in-law wrote for me. So my future brother-in-law wrote my maid of honor speech for me, and he used it to take a shot at my sister's ex. Let me explain. I'm 32, and my sister asked me to be her maid of honor, which of course I said yes to immediately. About 2 weeks before the wedding, her fiancé Marcus sends me this fully written toast, and he tells me he wants me to read it word for word at the reception. I read through it, and most of it was actually pretty sweet, nothing offensive on the surface. But there was this one part where he wanted me to make a joke comparing him to my sister's ex-boyfriend, something like, unlike her ex, Marcus actually shows up. Here's the problem with that. My sister's breakup with that ex was genuinely rough, like emotionally messy, and she has made it very clear over the years that she does not want that relationship brought up at all, let alone at her own wedding in front of both families and all their friends. So I go to Marcus and I tell him, hey, I love most of this, but I'm not comfortable reading that line about her ex, I don't think she'd want that mentioned on her wedding day. And Marcus gets weirdly defensive about it, tells me it's just a light-hearted joke, that everyone will laugh, and that I'm overreacting by refusing to say it. I told him I'm happy to give my own toast, in my own words, celebrating both of them, but I'm not going to stand up in front of everyone and bring up her ex just to make a point about how great he is by comparison. He didn't love that answer. He went and told my sister that I was being difficult and making things complicated right before the wedding, which then led to my sister calling me, stressed out, asking why I couldn't just read the toast the way he wrote it since it was, quote, not that big of a deal. I explained my reasoning to her directly, and she seemed to get it, but you could tell she was stuck in the middle and stressed about keeping the peace with Marcus so close to the wedding. Now there's this weird tension where Marcus thinks I sabotaged his speech, my sister is stressed, and I'm sitting here wondering if I should have just read his words and kept the peace for one night. So, am I the jerk for refusing to read a wedding toast that brings up my sister's ex, even though her own fiancé is the one who wrote it? Story 4. AITA for not co-signing my niece's student loans while her parents refused to fix their credit. So my niece needs a co-signer for her student loans, and everyone's mad at me for saying no. Here's the situation. My niece is heading off to college this fall. Her parents together make over $150,000 a year, which means she doesn't qualify for federal financial aid. So they went to the bank to try to get private student loans instead. Since she's 18, she needed a co-signer, and her parents tried to do it themselves first. Except the bank denied them, because their credit is trashed. And when I say trashed, I mean genuinely bad. My niece's mom, my sister, is over $100,000 in her own student loan debt that she's been deferring for years, and both of them are just historically terrible with money, always living beyond what they actually make. So after getting denied, they came to me, asking if I would co-sign the loans instead, since apparently my credit is solid and I make decent money. I said no. And you would think I told them I was cutting off the family forever based on the reaction I got. My sister called me heartless, said I'm choosing to let my own niece struggle for no reason, that this is what family is supposed to do for each other. Here's my thinking though. Co-signing a loan means if my niece can't pay it, I am legally on the hook for the entire thing. And given that her own parents, the two adults who are supposed to be most invested in her financial well-being, have credits so bad the bank wouldn't even approve them, I don't have a lot of confidence that this household manages money responsibly enough for me to take on that kind of risk. I told my sister I'm not doing this because of my niece, I actually believe she's a good kid, I'm not doing it because I don't trust the financial environment she's coming from, and I especially don't trust that if things go sideways, I won't end up covering payments while everyone shrugs and says they didn't have the money. My sister says I'm punishing her daughter for her parents' mistakes. I say I'm protecting myself from a financial disaster that isn't mine to fix. Now there's a whole family group chat blowing up about it, some relatives think I'm being smart, others think I'm being cold and selfish for not just helping my own niece get an education. So, am I the jerk for refusing to co-sign a loan that could legally bankrupt me, just because my niece's parents can't manage their own finances? Story 5. I put a console lock on my Switch after my dad tried to load pirated games on it. So my own dad almost got my brand new console permanently banned, and now he's mad that I locked him out of it. I'm 14, and I got the new Switch 2 back in August. It was a big deal for me, saved up, waited for launch, the whole thing. So a couple months in, my dad decides, without asking me at all, to buy this cheap flash card off some sketchy site from China. For anyone who doesn't know, a flash card is basically a device you plug into a console to run pirated games. He plugs it straight into my Switch 2, tries to load up a bunch of pirated game icons, and he actually clicks on one of them. It brings up a loading screen, thankfully doesn't fully load, and he ends up going back to the home menu and taking the card out. I wasn't even home when this happened, I found out after the fact. And I immediately panicked, because Nintendo is notoriously strict about this stuff. If they detect any flash cart usage or pirated software, they can permanently ban your console from their online services, and sometimes brick it entirely depending on what got triggered. This is a console I paid for with my own saved-up money, it wasn't cheap, and my dad risked bricking it or getting it banned without even asking me first, just to try to get some free games. As soon as I found out, I went and put a console lock on it, basically a password protection so nobody can access system settings or plug in outside hardware without my permission. I did this specifically so my dad couldn't try anything like that again. Well, my dad found out I locked him out and he was furious. He said it's ridiculous that I don't trust my own father with my stuff, and that he was just trying to save us money on games. My mom is kind of stuck in the middle but leans toward thinking I overreacted by locking my own dad out of a shared family space. But this isn't a shared console, it's mine, I paid for it, and he used sketchy pirated hardware on it without asking, which could have gotten it banned permanently with zero way to undo that. I feel like locking it is the bare minimum to protect something I worked hard to buy. So, am I the jerk for putting a lock on my own console after my dad tried to load pirated games onto it without asking me? If you enjoyed these stories, drop a comment telling me which one was your favorite. And if you want more relaxed Reddit readings, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, like, comment and subscribe for more relaxed Reddit readings.